Penstemon is a large group and prominent in our flora in western North America. Some of them grow in relatively wet places like mountain meadows and so on, but some of them grow in pretty dry places. And a good example is Penstemon spectabilis here, really living up to its name, looking pretty spectacular. It's got purple and blue flowers and really putting on a show right now at the garden. Welcome to May and our What's in Bloom for the month of May. Next up we have Diplacus bifidus. So these Diplacus we've long called mimulus, and now the dry growing ones like this have been split off from the ones that grow near seeps and with their feet in the water, and so these dry growing ones we now call Diplacus. So this is Diplacus bifidus with beautiful flowers. In this case it's quite a rich yellow at the middle with a pale yellow at the outside, but there are various color forms of it, but really looking nice right now. Well, there's a large group of plants called brooms, and some people think of broom as a bad word because there are certainly some very invasive ones that have kind of taken over areas of California, but there are other ones that are really choice plants, and a good example is this one, Cytisus Boskoop ruby, which is on the red side. Most brooms tend to be on the yellow side, but really a wonderful plant, and you can see just full of flowers right now. May is a great month for yuccas. We've got a lot of yuccas in the United States, and there are many more south of the border in Mexico, including this large plant behind me, Yucca rigida, from northern Mexico. Ours is actually one of the biggest specimens in Northern California, and right at its peak of flowering right now. Fremontodendrons are called flannel bushes, and California is famous for its wonderful Fremontodendrons. They do grow southward into Baja California as well, and by crossing the Baja ones with the California ones, they've come up with some wonderful hybrids, including this one, Ken Taylor. It's listed as growing up to 5 feet tall, but as you can see, ours is considerably shorter than that, and just awash in yellow flowers. This plant is a California native called Lepechinia fragrans. It's in the mint family, and the fragrans refers to the minty smell that you can get when you get close to it. It's got lavender flowers, and it works its way upward from the base towards the tip as it flowers. So in this case, we're maybe about 3/4 of the way or so along on the flowering. There are many plants in the genus Opuntia. These are called the prickly pears. And one that's native to California, among other states, is this plant, which is in full bloom now, and that is Opuntia basilaris, called the beaver tail cactus, and I think you can see the resemblance to a beaver tail in those pads. This small tree is called Bauhinia macranthera, native to the mountains of western Mexico, with its beautiful lavender and pink flowers. It has a long blooming season and makes the nice dappled kind of light that many plants like to grow underneath. Aloe buhrii is a rare aloe from South Africa. It's related to Aloe striata, the coral aloe, which is much more common in nature and much more common in cultivation. But actually, Aloe buhrii is even better adapted for our Mediterranean climate here in California because it grows on the west side of South Africa, where it's a winter rainfall, summer dry climate just like ours. It has a yellow form and an orange form. They both grow right together in the same habitat. They're not from separate populations. And May is the peak month for Aloe buhrii. The Leucospermums are a South African group in the Protea family. And this one here is Leucospermum reflexum, known as the rocket pincushion. And I think if you use your imagination and look at those flowers, they do look like they're jetting upwards. It's a plant from the western side of South Africa and the winter rainfall zone, and so it does very well in our Mediterranean climate. The tricky thing about growing these Leucospermums is they don't want a lot of phosphorus. So if you're fertilizing, keep the phosphorus to a minimum, and then you'll have good success with them. It likes full sun. Doryanthes palmeri is known as the Australian spear lily. It's got a very large rosette of long leaves, almost yucca-like leaves, and then this big flower stalk that comes out with bright red flowers, really a showstopper when it comes into bloom. It's been here at the garden for many years, and this is not the first time it's bloomed, but we always look forward to that bright red in the springtime. Well, we already saw Leucospermum reflexum, which is a true species pincushion. But there are many, many hybrid pincushions as well. This one's called Brandi de la Cruz. And the flower heads change as they go along, starting out a little bit greenish and quite tight, and then as the stigmas expand, then they get that pincushion look and get much wider. And here you can see all stages of it in the flowering. The bromeliad family is a big family, all from the Americas, but from many different habitats. So some of the ones that grow in rainforest conditions have a tank-like gathering of their leaves where water can collect in the middle. But some of the ones that grow in a dry area have a very different look. This one here is a Dyckia from Brazil. It's a hybrid and has been bred to have dark leaves with silvery teeth on them and bright orange flowers. And here you can see it in full flower. There are plenty of yuccas that are quite short, just a tuft of leaves right on the ground, but others that get to be very tall. And the Joshua tree is a well-known trunk-forming, tall-growing yucca, but some of them get even bigger than that. This one here is called Yucca filifera, and it comes from northern Mexico. And unlike other yuccas, the flowers don't go up, they actually hang down, as you can see with this cluster right here. The agaves are known as century plants, and most of them are native to Mexico, although there are others that come from the Caribbean, northern South America, and the southwestern United States. Well, this is a hybrid called Blue Glow, and it's become one of the top-selling agaves in the world in the last 10 years. And the blue glow part refers to the way that the marginal leaf glows when the sunshine is on it. It's a hybrid between two species, both from Mexico, and it flowers at a younger age than most agaves do. We call them century plants with the idea that they bloom after a century, which they really don't take that long, but this one's even shorter than most and blooms in about 10 years. This plant is called Cleistocactus hyalacanthus, and it comes from the Andes in northern Argentina and southern Bolivia. And it's named for the glassy spines. They're long and a lot of them, but they're really not very sharp. You can actually pat this cactus, but it has these wonderful little tubular flowers that are hummingbird pollinated flowers. And the name Cleistocactus means closed cactus, and that's because the flowers stay closed, don't open widely like most flowers would. This plant is in the ice plant family. It's called Lampranthus spectabilis, and comes from South Africa like most of the ice plants do. You really couldn't ask for more of a plant when it comes to flowering than this. You can't even see the plant at all because it's so covered in flowers. Just an amazing display. It's not very long lasting, but it's just incredible while it's going. This little plant is called Allium Christophii. Allium, the same group that the onions and garlic belong to, but this one's an ornamental, and it has this wonderful sphere of sort of silvery lavender flowers. It comes from Iran and Turkey, and it's a plant that's dormant in the summertime, grows in the wintertime, and then puts on this flower display in the spring. Aeoniums are in the Crassula family, and most of them come from the Canary Islands. The most familiar one is probably Aeonium arboreum, which gets a long stem, several feet tall, and then has a big cone of yellow flowers on top. But some of them are on the small side. This one's Aeonium simsii, little tiny rosettes of leaves, but a bright yellow display of flowers in the spring when it comes into bloom. Sometimes an aloe looks a lot like an agave, and you can see why people get mixed up between them. This one here is Aloe brumii from South Africa, and really it does look quite like an agave, but they're very different when it comes to the flowers. An agave saves up all its energy and then goes into flower and dies at the end of its lifespan, just one flowering in its whole existence, whereas an aloe flowers again and again when its time of the year comes around. This one comes from the interior of South Africa in a summer rainfall zone, but we can grow it here in a winter rainfall climate as long as we do water it in the summertime. When it comes into flower in the spring, there are these little teeny tiny flowers almost hidden by the bracts on the inflorescence, but quite wonderful when you see them up close.